Welcome to Strange History, where we talk about the weird, the wonderful, and sometimes strange history that has shaped who we are today. Today we're going to be talking about pirates.
Land ho!
When you think of pirates, it conjures up the image of Captain Hook or perhaps Johnny Depp's portrayal of Captain Jack Sparrow. But did you know the most successful pirate in history was a woman? Of course it was a woman. Women are sly, cunning, and ferocious. The woman of the hour is a woman named Zheng Yi. Zheng was a former prostitute in China. Zheng Yi became a marauder on the high seas when she was bought by the commander of the Red Flag Fleet. He married Shi, and the two formed a formidable duo. When her husband died, Shi took over the fleet and ruled the seas among the 19th century. She was born in 1775 and was active in the South China Sea from 1801 to 1810. Born as Shi Yang in 1775 to humble origins, she worked as a prostitute on a floating brothel. She married a pirate named Zheng Yi at the age of 26. She was named Zheng Yi Sao, which means wife of Zheng Yi, by the people of Guangdong. In 1801, pirate Zheng Yi, who commanded a fleet of ships called the Red Flag Fleet, noticed Zheng Yi's beauty and wished to be with her. There are two varying accounts of how they actually came to be together. According to some, Zheng Yi sent a raid and ordered them to plunder the brothel. He asked that they bring him Zheng Yi, his favorite prostitute. The men did as they were ordered, and Zheng Yi and Zheng Yi were married. By other accounts, Zheng Yi simply asked Zheng Yi to marry him. She agreed to his proposal so long as she would have some power within his organization, and they would receive an equal share of his plunder. While the accounts vary as to how they actually came together, Zheng Yi and Zheng Yi began to run the pirate red ship fleet together. Zheng Yi was a pirate who fought as a privateer for the Vietnamese Tay Son dynasty in the Tay Son Wars against Qing China, and later Nguyen An. Zheng Yi hailed from a family of well-known pirates whose roots trace back to the Ming dynasty. He had an adopted son, Zhang Bao, who had been abducted by Zheng Yi in 1798 at the age of 15. This guy apparently likes to abduct people. He subsequently pressed Zhang Bao into piracy. He also shared two other children with Zheng Yi. A year after the marriage, in February of 1802, Zheng Yi's cousin, who also commanded a fleet of pirates, was captured and executed in the town of Jiangping on the border of Vietnam and China. Zheng Yi quickly took over Zheng Yi's fleet after his death and sailed back to the Chinese coast together with the rest of the Chinese pirates, formally under his cousin's patronage. A period of infighting among the pirates near the Guangdong coast followed, but with the help of Zheng Yi Sao, who was a capable consolidator and organizer, Zheng Yi was able to unite the pirates into a confederation through the signing of an agreement in July of 1805. In which each pirate leader agreed to sacrifice some of his autonomy for the greater good. The Confederation consisted of 6 fleets known by the color of their flags: red, black, blue, white, yellow, and purple. Zheng Yi commanded the biggest fleet in the Confederation, the Red Flag Fleet. On November 16, 1807, Zheng Yi fell overboard in a gale, and he died at the young age of 42. After the death of her husband in 1807, she took control of his pirate confederation with the support of his adopted son, Zhang Bao, with whom she entered into a relationship and she later married. As the unofficial commander of the Guangdong Pirate Confederation, her fleet was composed of 400 junks, 40,000 and 60,000 pirates in 1805. Her ships entered into conflict with several major powers, such as the East India Company, the Portuguese Empire, and Qing China. After a very successful few years of raiding and pillaging, the Chinese called the Portuguese to help, but this proved unsuccessful, and the result of this was not a good outcome for the Portuguese, and Zheng Yi prevailed. The Portuguese fleet lost 3 ships and at least 74 men, while the pirates lost 40 men and no ships, and the pirates escaped back to the sea.
Yo-ho-ho!
By early 1810, the pirates began to realize that they were in such a position of power that they could negotiate the surrender to the Guangdong government without punishment or repercussions being imposed upon them. Guangdong was so desperate to end the scourge of piracy that they were ready to legitimize their power in exchange for their retirement. With the magistrate's help, Miguel Jose de Aragia as mediator, Zheng Yi Sao, Zhang Bao, and Bei Ling officially met on Zhang Bao's flagship on February 21st, 1810. The negotiations quickly broke down when Bei Ling refused Zheng Yi Sao and Zhang Bao's demand for retaining 5,000 subordinates and 80 ships for entering the salt trade and joining the anti-pirate campaign in western Guangdong. At the end of the day, 10 British Indian men sailed past the pirate fleet and alarmed Zhang Bao, who suspected some sort of Sino-European trap, and quickly retreated. Fast forward a few short months to April 17th, Zheng Yi Sao wanted to break the deadlock, and she personally led a delegation of 17 women and children to the Yamen at Guangzhou and renegotiated with Bei Ling, where he yielded to her demands. On April 20th, 1810, Zheng Yi Sao and Zhang Bao officially surrendered to Bei Ling with a little over 17,000 pirates, 226 ships, cannons, and assortments of weapons. Zheng Yi Sao surrendered with 24 ships, 1,433 pirates under her personal command. Zhang Bao was awarded the rank of lieutenant and was allowed to retain a private fleet of 20 to 30 ships. Zheng Yi Sao was also given permission to officially marry Zhang Bao. Zheng Yi Sao and her crews were pardoned, and the men received pork, wine, and money. Zheng Yi Sao gave birth to another son, Zhang Yulen, in 1813. In 1822, at the age of 36, Zhang Bao died near Penghu while serving as a colonel in charge of the Penghu garrison. In 1824, Zheng Yi Sao returned to Guangdong with Yang Yulen. In 1844, Zheng Yi Sao died at the age of 68 or 69, having led a relatively peaceful life after the death of her second husband. She was a proprietor of an infamous gambling house somewhere around Guangdong. Zheng Yi Sao has been described as history's most successful female pirate and one of the most successful pirates in history. Let's talk a little bit about the codes of conduct for her pirates. These rules were created by Zhang Bao, and you can't help but think she had a hand in creating them. Some of the rules were, if any pirate goes privately on shore, he shall be taken, his ears mutilated, he will be paraded around the fleet, and then executed. Women captured from villages shall not be harmed or harassed. All women captives shall be registered, their place of origin recorded, and given separate quarters. Those who rape or commit adultery with the women captives shall be executed. If a pirate wanted one of the captive women, they would have to marry them and remain faithful. The women who were deemed unpleasant to look at were actually set free. Anyone caught giving commands on their own or disobeying a command from a superior was to be immediately decapitated, off with his head, I guess. Pilfering from common treasury or public fund and stealing from villagers who supplied the pirates were capital offenses. No pirate could retain any goods before inspection. Goods had to be registered and then distributed by the fleet leader. 20% of the booty was to be returned to the original captor, and the remainder was placed in a joint treasury or a storehouse. If anyone kept more than 20%, they would be executed. Currency was to be handed over to the squadron leader. Part was turned over to the fleet and some back to the captor. I would imagine this would also follow the 20-80 split rule. Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End in 2007, which was directed by Gore Verbinski, featured a character played by Takeo Fisher, which was named Mistress Ching, which is loosely based on Zheng Yi Sao. There's a virtual reality experience called Madame Pirate, Becoming a Legend, which was made in 2021. It's a fictional retelling of Zheng Yi Sao's rise to power. I may have to check that out. Other things like video games also honored her life with the pirate hero from For Honor, which was heavily inspired by Qing Shi. Bales Hai, a character from Invisible, is also inspired by Qing Shi.
Yo. Ho, ho.
Well, this is the end of the plank for us on this episode. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe wherever you listen, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, etc. This episode was produced by Dead to Me Productions, and I, your host, Amy Domestico, plundered all this research from the internet. Thank you, Spreaker, for being the best podcast platform on the high seas. Love you guys.
Yeah.